Now, before you say anything, I know. New glasses. You'll get used to it.
So, been a long time since I did one of these, huh? I barely remember how to do this. So Ready Player One is a movie that people don't like. I like it. That's the topic of this video. And originally this channel, for that matter. Ready Player One is a movie directed by Steven Spielberg based on a book by Ernest Cline, which also people don't like, and also I happen to like. I got it in a loot crate way back when, and I had a great time reading it. The problem I saw most people having with Ready Player One, both the book and the movie, was that it's just a bunch of things you know. Ready Player One is not just a bunch of things you know, guys. Ready Player One shows us a VR toy box where people play with pieces of pop culture that they like. Does that sound familiar? That's because that's what they do now. The only difference is Ready Player One is set in a world where the technology is further along, and also the world is further along in its spiral down into dystopia. The inescapable comparison is Big Bang Theory. Now, the reason that name-dropping nerd stuff is a problem in Big Bang Theory is because it's in place of jokes in a sitcom. Nobody has a problem with Super Smash Bros. Because underneath all the stuff you already know is a solid fighting game. Ready Player One is an action movie, so it would be a problem if the references were in place of good action. But Ready Player One is a fantastic action movie. I don't usually give Steven Spielberg the credit that the rest of the world gives him, but he knows his way around an action scene. And anyone who saw his Tintin movie would probably tell you that he knows his way around a CGI action scene just as well. If you still don't believe me, let's take a quick look at the 3 most impressive action scenes in this movie. First up is the Copper Key Race. This race supposedly holds one of the secrets to the Easter egg hunt, but nobody's ever won it before. In the scene before, we find out that Wade, our protagonist, is low on gas, and so he's going to start at the back of the race and collect coins from other racers before working his way back up to the front. This whole scene plays without music, which makes it fun to play music in the background while watching it.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
This scene's also full of long, unbroken shots, because it's animated, and you can do that. Like that! I mean, if you're gonna be spending hundreds of millions of dollars on movies that are mostly CGI, at least do cool stuff with the CGI like that. Now we see our first obstacle, a truck that cars can't fit under without that happening, so he switches his DeLorean to hover mode like in Back to the Future 2, which is, like, it's not just, hey, that's the thing it does in Back to the Future 2, it's, hey, that's the thing it does in Back to the Future 2 being used to solve a problem. Oh, and now my favorite shot in the movie, which I made a video dedicated to back when it was in the trailer, and yep, it's still awesome. Oh, yep, I love this movie, yep. And there's King Kong, yep. Now, I know the whole point I'm trying to make is that this scene is good beneath the fact that it's King Kong chasing the DeLorean. But it's King Kong chasing the DeLorean! I loved King Kong since I was a kid, and I loved Back to the Future since I was a kid, and I love the premise of this scene, and it makes me giddy. And I'm gonna pretend that I don't, so that I can talk about this more objectively. This scene ends as all good action sequences should end.
Balls.
With the word balls. Alright, next up, in the book there was a scene where the main characters go inside VR renderings of movies, specifically War Games and Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail. In the movie, it's The Shining, because Spielberg probably, but I'm not complaining. To get the feel of The Shining, they fully recreated sets, lighting, shot composition, even the look of the film stock using a combination of CGI and real footage, which is such a cool idea to me. Not just to go inside The Shining, but to go inside a movie. That is the kind of thing I dream about. That's such a fun thing to do with a VR movie. Apparently this set they recreated was, in real life, where Steven Spielberg met Stanley Kubrick for the first time, which is... that's pretty neat.
No.
Alright, so first off, that's hilarious. But second, this turns out to be a surprisingly good premise for an action scene. Then we have H's gayest scene in the movie, which is nowhere near as gay as she was in the book, but it's gay nonetheless. And then we've got the maze chase, of course, we've got the ballroom scene, and then we're out of The Shining. It's a fun idea, it's a fun scene, it's a fun movie. Next scene! This is the climactic action scene of the movie, where on the ground, players from the Oasis fight Sixer soldiers, and up above, giant robots fight. In the book, the robots were Ultraman, Kiryu, a Gundam, and Leopardon the Spider-Man robot. I bring this up as a lifelong Godzilla fan, so becoming engrossed in a book only to find out that the climax is Mechagodzilla fighting Ultraman, that was pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. But, I know, I've got to separate this scene from the things I like in it so I don't end up sounding like this. There's a few things I don't really like about the ground battle scene. The use of the one PG-13 F word is kind of baffling.
Fucking Chucky!
And it's pretty hard for me to overlook that they used the wrong Ninja Turtles. But once we get to Kiryu, then I'll be fully on board. Wait, what the fuck? So they swapped out Ultraman for Iron Giant, but more interestingly, they created a completely new design that isn't from any other movie for Mechagodzilla. In the book, it's explicitly this Mechagodzilla. I had no idea how to feel about this in the theater. I'd been really looking forward to seeing Kiryu on the big screen, but on the other hand, it was really cool to see a new design of Mechagodzilla, especially when the series following Godzilla 2014 clearly doesn't have a tone to facilitate a new Mechagodzilla. I've also got to point out Alan Silvestri's score, which pays homage to a few things throughout the movie, but here pays homage to Akira Ifukube's Godzilla theme. Which was really cool to hear because it wasn't in Godzilla 2014. I mean, it's not Mechagodzilla's theme, but I'll take it.
Mechagodzilla!
But, of course, using old music doesn't make a scene good. I mean, Justice League did that and it's still not off the hook, so let's, forget I said anything. Anyway, we cut back to the Sixers VR setups a few times, which turn red when they die, which is cool, because then we get to see this. I like that shot. Having a giant robot fight stacked on top of a Lord of the Rings style battle scene, that's something that pretty much only an expensive CGI Hollywood movie can do, and Ready Player One does it pretty darn well. Ready Player One obviously has lots of problems, lots of weak moments, but it also does exactly what it's supposed to. It's a fun, well put together action movie. I mean, it was always going to end up in the shadow of the best VR movie ever made, Cyber Vengeance, but we won't hold that against it.
One other thing? You can suck my fuck you.
But Ready Player One has convinced me of one thing. There's no future in movie reviews. That's right, I'm finally doing it. Brightside Ewan is now officially a Let's Play channel.